The girl in the trash zone asterisk. The sun never truly rose on planet Grag 7. A thick, brown sky covered the world like a dirty blanket. Smoke from the factories filled the air, and the wind always smelled like burning metal. Kyle worked at the edge of Zone 9-1 of the trash zones, where broken machines, old tech, and useless scrap were dumped by mining companies. It was a lonely job. No one talked. No one smiled. Everyone just picked through trash to find parts that still worked. One cold morning, Kyle heard a sound. It wasn't metal. It wasn't wind. It was crying. Soft, weak, almost impossible to hear over the noise of drills and engines. He paused, holding a half-melted circuit board in one hand. There it was again. A whimper, like a child, but more raw, more hollow. He followed the sound, walking past piles of trash, broken droids, and rusted shipping crates. Then, behind a cracked metal bin, he saw her. A small alien girl. She was curled up in the dirt, barely breathing. Her skin was covered in grime, cuts, and bruises. Long wires dangled from her back, tangled with dry blood. Her eyes were wide, but dim. She looked like someone who hadn't eaten in days. Her legs were thin. Her clothes were nothing but rags. One of her arms had strange metallic lines running through it, as if she was part machine. People passed by, glanced once, then walked faster. Disgusting. One man muttered, "She's probably dangerous," said another. "No one should touch it," a woman warned. "Might have some disease." But Kyle didn't move. He knelt beside her. Her lips trembled. She looked up at him like a frightened animal. He reached out slowly, carefully. "It's okay," he said in a gentle voice. "I'm not going to hurt you." She tried to pull away, too weak to even stand. Kyle took off his work gloves and gently wiped some of the dirt from her face. "I'm Kyle," he said. "You don't have to stay here." People started whispering around him. "Is he crazy? He's going to get infected. Why is he touching that thing?" Kyle ignored them. He took off his coat and wrapped it around the girl. She was cold, ice cold. He could feel her shaking through the fabric. Then he stood up, carrying her in his arms. And everyone watched in silence. Kyle lived in a small housing pod outside the city walls. It wasn't much, just a few rooms, a bed, and a small shower unit. But it was clean, warm, safe. He laid the girl down gently on a soft chair and rushed to the supply unit. Food, water, towels, clean clothes. He didn't know what she needed first. She was still shaking. He crouched in front of her and said, "I'm going to start the shower, okay? Warm water, it'll help." She didn't respond. Her eyes just stared at the wall. Kyle opened the bathroom door. Steam began to rise as the water warmed. Then he returned, lifted her carefully, and carried her to the shower stall. As the first drops touched her skin, she gasped. She flinched, her hands grabbing the wall. She didn't understand what was happening. But the heat began to work. Her shivering slowed. The dirt started to fall away. Layers of it. Years of it. Beneath the grime, her skin had a soft lavender glow. Under the wires, small silver patterns ran along her spine. She wasn't just dirty. She was different. Special. After the shower, Kyle helped her into clean clothes. She didn't speak. But her eyes were no longer hollow. She watched him now. He placed a small bowl of soup on the table and sat across from her. "You can eat. No one's going to stop you." Her hands were shaky. She tried to hold the spoon. Dropped it. Tried again. Kyle didn't laugh. He just waited. Slowly, she brought the first bite to her mouth. Then another. Then another. Later that night, she fell asleep on the couch, wrapped in a warm blanket. Kyle watched her breathe. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know where she came from. But he knew one thing. No one deserved to be left in the trash. Not her. Anyone. Outside the city, in a dark building filled with screens, a red light started blinking. A camera had picked up her face in Zone 9. A voice spoke through a radio. Subject 17 has been found. Prepare a recovery team. They were coming. She doesn't know what kindness is. When she woke up the next morning, the small room was quiet. Sunlight, soft and golden, came through the window. It landed gently on the blanket covering her. For a moment, the girl didn't move. She just stared at the ceiling, her eyes blinking slowly, unsure if she was still dreaming. No cold metal walls. No loud orders. No pain. Just silence. And warmth. She sat up slowly. Her body still ached, but it wasn't the same pain. It was the kind that came from rest after a long fight. A deep tiredness, not fear. Then she saw him, Kyle, sitting by the wall, half asleep in a chair, a book resting on his chest. She tensed, but he didn't move. He wasn't watching her. He wasn't holding any weapons. He had simply fallen asleep, keeping watch. Her eyes studied him. Why? Why hadn't he heard her? Why had he touched her with clean hands? She stood and walked quietly toward the bathroom. The reflection in the mirror made her stop. She didn't recognize the face. Her hair, once thick with grease and dust, now hung softly around her shoulders. Her skin, once coated in filth, now glowed with a gentle purple sheen. The wires on her back were no longer red with dried blood. She looked alive, and it scared her. A few minutes later, Kyle woke up to the sound of light footsteps. She was standing in the middle of the room, wearing the clothes he gave her. She held the edge of her shirt tightly, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to wear something clean. "Hey," Kyle said softly, standing up. "You okay?" She didn't answer, just looked at him. He smiled a little. "I made something. You might like it." He walked to the counter and pulled out a tray of warm bread and sweet tea. Simple food, but it smelled wonderful. He placed it on the table. The girl stepped forward, slowly. She looked at the food, then at him. Her lips parted. "Is it mine?" she asked in a whisper. Kyle nodded. "All yours." She sat down, almost like she was waiting for someone to yell at her. When no one did, she picked up the bread and took a bite. Her eyes widened. Tears filled them. She chewed slowly, carefully, like she was afraid to eat too fast and lose it all. Kyle watched quietly. He didn't ask questions. Not yet. Later that day, she sat by the window, watching the sky. Kyle fixed a broken sensor on the roof. From time to time, he glanced through the glass. She was still there. Still real. Still safe, for now. When evening came, he sat beside her. "You don't have to talk," he said gently. "But if you ever want to, I'll listen." She didn't answer right away. Then, in a quiet voice, she said, "They called me 17. 17? Kyle asked. She nodded. "No name?" She shook her head. "Just a number. I was one of many." He frowned. "What happened to the others?" She didn't speak. Her hands gripped her knees. "Gone," she finally said. Kyle placed a hand on the table, not touching her, just near. A silent offer of safety. After a moment, she relaxed slightly. "You can choose a name," he said, "if you want." She looked at him, confused. "I can choose?" He nodded. "Of course. You don't belong to anyone." She thought hard, then whispered, "Ziri." "That's beautiful," Kyle said. "Ziri it is." She smiled a little. It was tiny, soft, but real. That night, Ziri had a nightmare. She cried in her sleep. Kyle rushed in and gently placed a blanket over her, sitting nearby until she calmed. She woke up, gasping. He looked at her with calm eyes. "You're safe." She stared at him. "You're not like them." "Who?" he asked. "The scientists, the men in suits, the ones who built me." Kyle's eyes narrowed. "Built you?" She pointed to her back, where soft wires connected to the skin like roots to soil. "I'm not just alien," she said. "I'm part machine. They made me in a lab. But when I started feeling emotions, they said I was broken. Kyle looked at her with deep sadness. "You're not broken, Ziri," he said. "You're human in all the best ways." Outside, far away, the tracking team had landed. Soldiers moved silently through the night, their scanners glowing red dot inside Kyle's home. Ziri fell asleep again, this time holding the blanket close. For the first time in her life, she believed the warmth around her wasn't fake, but the peace wouldn't last. Her body is changing asterisk. The next morning, Kyle heard a strange sound coming from the bathroom. It was soft, like electricity. A hum. He knocked gently. "Ziri, everything okay?" No answer. He waited a moment, then pushed the door open slowly. Ziri stood in front of the mirror, her shirt rolled up. Her eyes were wide, full of fear. Her hands were shaking. "Kyle," she whispered. "Something is wrong." He stepped closer, careful not to startle her. Then he saw it. Glowing blue lines had appeared on her back overnight, pulsing softly like moving light. They weren't wires. They weren't scars. They looked alive, like something inside her had woken up. Kyle kept his voice calm. "Does it hurt?" She shook her head. "No, but it's getting brighter." "I don't know why." He nodded. "It's okay. We'll figure it out." Ziri covered herself quickly, embarrassed. "I didn't ask for this," she said. "I didn't ask to be made like this." Kyle sat down on the edge of the tub. "Sometimes we don't get to choose what we are," he said. "But we can still choose who we want to become." Ziri looked at him, uncertain but comforted. "Can you help me?" He smiled. "That's why you're here." Later that day, Kyle pulled out an old scanner from his toolbox. It was made for detecting machine energy in broken tech, but he had a feeling it might tell them something about Ziri too. "Hold still," he said. Ziri stood quietly as the scanner beeped and whirred. Then the screen lit up. Kyle stared at it. Her energy levels were off the charts, not just artificial, but something more advanced. Something organic and mechanical combined perfectly. A soft voice came from the device. "Warning. Unknown biotech detected. Prototype class. Active." Ziri frowned. "Prototype?" Kyle explained. "It means you were never meant to be mass-produced. You're one of a kind." Ziri blinked. "But I was in a cage with others." Kyle nodded. "Maybe they tried to copy what you are, but only you survived." She sat down, hands on her knees. Her breathing was slow and heavy. "What if the changes get worse?" she asked. "What if I hurt someone?" Kyle knelt beside her. "Ziri, you've only ever tried to protect yourself. Even in pain, even scared, you never lashed out." He looked her in the eyes. "You're not dangerous. They just told you that, so you'd stay small." That night, Ziri had another dream, but this one was different. She was in a white room, soft. Lights floated around her. A voice echoed in the distance, female, calm. "Subject 17. Memory lock removed. Core systems activating." She turned toward the voice, but saw nothing. Just white. "You were not made to obey. You were made to adapt." Then she woke up, the lights on her back glowing brighter than ever. Meanwhile, the Syndicate recovery team was getting closer. They had traced her last signal to Kyle's neighborhood. A man in a black coat stood in front of a screen, eyes fixed. "This human." He took her in, he said coldly. "He'll lead us straight to her." He tapped a button on his wrist. "Prepare the tranquilizers." "We don't need him. We just need her alive." Back in Kyle's home, Ziri walked to the small window, looking out at the stars. She touched her arm. The light faded a little when she calmed herself. Maybe she could control it. Maybe she wasn't broken at all. Kyle came up beside her. "Do you want to try something?" he asked. She turned. He held out a music device, old, dusty, but still working. "Music?" she asked. "Yeah," he said. "You ever heard any?" Ziri shook her head. He pressed a button. Soft music filled the room. Calm, warm, simple notes. Ziri sat down, eyes wide. The lights on her back flickered softly with the rhythm dot. It was the first time she had felt beauty it made. Her smile. But across the street, inside a dark van, a camera zoomed in on Kyle's house. Visual confirmed, a soldier said. Target inside. Awaiting orders. The team loaded their weapons. Their leader gave a sharp nod. We move at sunrise. Ziri didn't know it yet, but her past was catching up. Faster than anyone could stop. But for now, in that small home, she was not a project, she was not a subject. She was Ziri, and she was finally beginning to live. Asterisk. We have to run asterisk. Kyle couldn't sleep. Something didn't feel right. He kept looking at the front door, then at the window. The silence outside felt too heavy, too still. He walked quietly to the table where Ziri had fallen asleep reading an old book. She had asked him to teach her new words. She had smiled when she understood freedom. Now she slept with the book beside her chest, her body curled gently, glowing lines on her back, dim like resting stars. Kyle's chest tightened. He didn't want to wake her, but something told him. They had no time. He walked outside, just past. The edge of the porch thought the night wind was cold. Then he saw it, a red blinking light in the distance. Just for a second. Hidden behind the trees. His eyes narrowed. That wasn't normal. He reached into the toolbox beside the stairs and pulled out a scanner. It hummed softly and then flashed red. Thermal signature. 6 targets approaching. His heart dropped. They had found her. He rushed inside. Ziri, he said, gently shaking her. Wake up. We have to go. She opened her eyes, still sleepy. What? Why? No time, he said. They're coming. People from your past. Her eyes widened. How? I didn't send any signal. Kyle grabbed a bag and started packing supplies. They must have tracked your energy after the last scan. I should have wiped it. Ziri stood up quickly. Where can we go? I know a place, Kyle said. It's not far, but we'll have to move fast. 5 minutes later, they slipped out the back of the pod house, sticking close to the shadows. Kyle had disabled the lights, hoping to confuse the tracking drones. Ziri followed him silently. Bare feet on the dirt, her breath fast and shaky behind them. The syndicate van rolled to a stop in front of the house. 6 agents stepped out, black suits. Masks, weapons ready. One of them scanned the door. 2 heat signatures, 1 very recent. They ran. The leader raised his hand. Then we follow. Kyle and Ziri moved through the junk fields. Broken machines and rusted parts rose like dark hills. Kyle knew the path. He had worked here for years, but Ziri had never moved this fast. Before, she stumbled. Kyle caught her. You okay? He asked. She nodded. Just scared. He gave a quick smile. Good. That means you're still human. They reached an old maintenance tunnel hidden under a pile of cargo crates. Kyle lifted the hatch. Go, he said. It'll take us to the train tracks outside the city. Ziri climbed down. Kyle followed and closed the hatch behind them. The tunnel was narrow and cold. Ziri walked in front now, her backlights glowing faintly, helping them see. I should have known, she said. Softly. They always come back. Kyle touched her shoulder. Ziri, they don't get to decide your life. Not anymore. She looked back at him. But if they catch me, they'll erase everything. Then we don't let them. Above ground, the agents spread out. One of them found the open hatch. They went underground. The leader growled. Send the crawler units, now. Kyle and Ziri reached the end of the tunnel and climbed up through a hatch near the train tracks. It was quiet. Deserted. An old maintenance train rested on the platform. its power core still glowing. Kyle smiled. This old junk still works. We're lucky. He helped Ziri climb aboard. Inside, he flipped a few switches. The engine hummed softly to life. Ziri sat by the window, staring out at the stars above. Where are we going? Kyle looked at her. There's a ruined lab out past the northern ridge. No one goes there anymore. But maybe it has answers. She nodded. I want to know who I really am. The train started moving slowly, cutting through the night. Back in the city, the syndicate team found the empty tunnel and the faint heat trail. One of them reported, they've escaped again. The leader clenched his fists. Double the bounty. She's not just property anymore. She's dangerous. Inside the train, Ziri leaned against Kyle. I was always afraid, she said. But now, I feel something new. What is it? He asked. She smiled softly. Hope. Kyle looked ahead, toward the dark hills. We're not finished yet, but we've started something they can't erase. The train moved faster, carrying them away from the life she was forced to live. Toward the truth she was finally ready to face. The hidden lab asterisk. The train slowed down near the end of the old tracks. The air outside was still, and the land ahead was dry and broken, filled with jagged rocks and silent hills. In the middle stood the ruins of a building, half buried by time. It was the place Kyle had spoken of, the hidden lab. Ziri stepped off the train first, her glowing eyes scanning the area. The ground felt strange here, like it remembered pain. Kyle walked beside her, holding a flashlight and a small device. This lab was shut down after the war, he said. They said it held failed science. Things too dangerous to continue. Ziri didn't speak. She just walked toward the broken door. Her back began to glow again. Inside, the air was thick with dust. Broken computers lined the walls. Cracked glass tubes stood empty, their wires dangling like dead vines. Ziri paused in the middle of the room. She closed her eyes. Something pulled her forward. Her hand moved on its own, reaching toward a small panel on the far wall. As soon as she touched it, the room lit up. The floor hummed. Screens came to life. A voice echoed through the speakers. Welcome, Subject 17. Memory access granted. Kyle stepped back in shock. Ziri stood still, her eyes full of light. A large screen in the center flickered. Old footage appeared. Ziri, smaller, weaker, was sitting in a cold chair. Wires were attached to her head. Scientists in white coats stood nearby, taking notes. Subject 17 is showing rapid growth. Neural pathways are expanding beyond limits. She's forming emotions, attachment, regret. Shut it down. Another video followed. Ziri was crying in a corner. A man shouted at her. She screamed, but no one listened. The screen faded. Ziri trembled. I remember now, she whispered. They made me, then hated what they made. Kyle placed a hand on her shoulder. But you survived. Ziri walked deeper into the lab. She found a sealed door with a strange symbol. It lit up as she approached. The door slid open, revealing a hidden room filled with glowing crystals and data cores. Kyle stepped inside. This doesn't look like human tech. It's not, Ziri said. It's part of my other side, alien technology. She touched one of the crystals. Images filled the air, not just science, but memories. A group of beings stood in a circle. One of them placed a glowing orb into a small pod. This child will carry what we lost, a voice said. Not as a weapon, but as a reminder that compassion matters more than control. Ziri gasped. That child was me. Kyle stared at her, amazed. You're not just part machine. You're the last memory of a people who didn't believe in war. Ziri's eyes filled with tears. And I was thrown into trash. No, Kyle said. You were hidden because they feared what you could become. Suddenly, a sharp beep echoed from Kyle's scanner. Multiple heat signatures moving fast, closing in. They found us. Kyle said, "We have to move." Ziri touched the wall. The lab light shifted to red. Defense protocol unlocked. The computer said walls shifted, doors sealed behind them, and the entrance to the core room disappeared, hidden by metal panels. Kyle turned to her. "How did you do that?" "I didn't know I could," she said. "But I think this place listens to me." Outside, the syndicate team arrived. They stood before the ruins, scanning. "She's in there," one said. The leader raised a weapon. "Bring her out, alive or broken." They stormed in, but the lab had changed. Hallways moved, doors closed. Lights misled them. Ziri and Kyle watched from a secret chamber. "She's protecting us," Ziri said, looking at the lab. "The memory of those who made me, it's helping." Kyle nodded. "Then let's use it." Back in the control room, Ziri placed her hand on the panel again. She took a deep breath. "I'm tired of running," she said. "Let them see what I really am." She activated a signal bright, wide and full of raw truth that had spread beyond. The lab dot beyond the planet, across satellites, stations, and outposts. "This is Subject 17. I was created to be a weapon, but I chose something else. I chose to feel. I chose kindness." People across the galaxy paused. They watched. They listened. Ziri turned to Kyle. "They'll come harder now." He nodded. "Then we stand together." And deep inside the old lab, where pain once ruled, a new light had started to shine. One that no one could ever erase again. She chooses to fight. The lab shook as explosions echoed outside. Dust fell from the ceiling. Ziri and Kyle stood near the glowing control panel, watching as the enemy agents moved closer on the surveillance screens. "They broke through the outer wall," Kyle said. "It's only a matter of time." Ziri took a deep breath. Her hands were steady. Her backlights glowed brighter than ever. "I'm done hiding," she said. Kyle looked at her. "Are you sure?" "You don't have to fight them. We can escape through the tunnels." Ziri shook her head. "If we run, they'll just chase others. Hurt more people like me." Kyle hesitated, then nodded. "Then we do this together." Ziri turned back to the console. "I'm connected to this place. It listens to my thoughts. I can guide it." She closed her eyes. Her body hummed. The walls of the lab shifted again, corridors sealed, lights dimmed. Traps activated. Kyle watched in amazement. Ziri wasn't afraid anymore. She was leading. Outside, the syndicate team loaded heavy weapons. Their leader, Commander Reyes, stepped forward with a dark smile. "She's cornered," he said. "We made her. We can unmake her." He raised his hand. "Move in." But as they entered the inner hallway, hidden panels opened and thick smoke poured out. Lasers flashed across the floor, cutting off their path. "We're locked out," one soldier shouted. "No," Reyes said. "We're being outsmarted by her." Inside the core chamber, Ziri stood tall. She opened her eyes, and the screen in front of her changed again. This time, it showed not just cameras, but files. Files about other experiments. Other children. "Look," she whispered. Kyle stepped closer and read the words. Subject 10, destroyed. Subject 12, terminated. Subject 17, escaped. Ziri's hands trembled. "I was the only one who survived." Kyle placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then you carry all of them with you now. Every voice that was lost speaks through you." Ziri wiped her tears. "I won't let them be forgotten." Suddenly, the power flickered. Breach detected. The computer voice warned. "They're forcing the door open," Kyle said. Ziri turned toward the chamber wall. "There's something I haven't tried," she said. She reached toward the center of the room, where a circle of ancient alien tech pulsed faintly. "I think this was meant for me," She stepped into the circle. The room darkened. Kyle shouted, "Ziri, wait, what are you doing?" But it was too late. A light surrounded her body, soft, blue, and growing stronger. She floated off the ground, eyes closed, arms outstretched. Her voice echoed, not from her mouth, but through the walls of the lab. "I am not your weapon. I am not your subject. I am not your property. I am Ziri." The entire lab glowed. Outside, the syndicate agents stumbled back as a wave of light burst through the windows. Their weapons froze. Their machines stopped working. One soldier dropped his gun. "What? Is she?" Commander Reyes stared ahead, speechless. "She was never broken," he whispered. "She was evolving." Back inside, Ziri floated gently back to the ground. Her lights dimmed to a soft blue. She opened her eyes. They were calm. Kyle ran to her. "Are you okay?" She nodded. "Better than ever." The computer's voice spoke again. "Biotech integration complete. Emotional stability confirmed. Prototype Ziri, active and free." Kyle smiled. "You chose this," he said. "You chose to stand." Ziri looked at him. "For the first time in my life, I chose me." Back outside, the syndicate soldiers tried to regroup, but their systems were still down. Ziri walked out the front door with Kyle beside her. "Commander." Reyes stared in shock. "You were never supposed to survive," he said. Ziri looked at him calmly. "Maybe that's the problem," she said. "You never wanted us to feel. But it's our feelings that made us stronger than you'll ever be." He raised a weapon, trembling. But before he could fire, the lab behind her lit up again, and a pulse of light pushed him and his soldiers back. They fell to the ground, disarmed and stunned. "Zir, I didn't strike again." She just turned away. "You don't deserve my pain anymore." Kyle followed her as they walked past the broken soldiers. "No one's going to believe this," he said. "They will," Ziri replied. "I'm going to show them the truth." That night, they returned to the lab. "Zir, I sent another message through. The galaxy-wide signal. To all who were discarded. To those called broken or worthless. You are more than they said you were. I was once thrown away, but now I stand for all of you. You are not alone." The response came quickly. Thousands of messages. Refugees, survivors, even humans who had lost faith in the system. They heard her, and they believed. Ziri looked at Kyle. "You once gave me a hot shower. You treated me like I was real." "You were," he said. "You always were." Ziri smiled. Now she was ready to be more than real. She was ready to change the world. She was never trash. A new day rose over the dusty lands of Grac 7. For the first time, the air didn't feel heavy. The clouds seemed lighter, the wind softer. Ziri stood at the edge of the lab ruins, watching the sky. She had changed. Her posture was calm. Her eyes, once full of fear, now glowed with purpose. The glowing marks on her back were no longer strange. They were symbols of strength. Kyle stood beside her, holding a datapad filled with incoming messages. "They just keep coming," he said. "People from across the galaxy. Some are like you. Others just want to help." Ziri nodded slowly. "Because they understand what it means to be thrown away." Kyle handed her the pad. "They're asking what to do next, where to go, who to follow." She looked down at the screen. So many names, so many lives touched by her voice. For a moment, she was silent. Then she smiled. "We give them a home," she said. In the weeks that followed, Kyle and Ziri rebuilt the lab. They cleaned out the rooms, repaired broken systems, and turned the dark halls into lighted shelters. They called it the Refuge. Not a hiding place, but a starting point. Aliens, hybrids, former test subjects, and cast-offs from all corners of the galaxy began to arrive. Some were silent. Some were sick. Some were scared. But Ziri greeted each one with kindness. She remembered their names. She looked them in the eyes. And most importantly, she never let anyone feel like trash. One day, a small transport landed just outside the gates. A young hybrid girl stepped out. Her clothes were torn and her hands trembled. She looked just like Ziri had weeks ago, lost and scared. Ziri walked to her and knelt. The girl flinched. Ziri gently offered her hand. "It's okay," she said softly. "You're safe now." The girl hesitated, then took her hand. Ziri helped her stand. "What's your name?" she asked. "I don't have one," the girl whispered. Ziri smiled warmly. "Then you get to choose." Inside the refuge, laughter began to return. Music played. Stories were shared. For the first time, those once called broken learned what it meant to heal. Ziri taught them how to control their powers, how to speak with confidence, and how to live without fear. Kyle handled the systems, the supplies, and even started building new rooms for incoming guests. Together, they created something beautiful. News of the refuge reached far beyond the stars. Governments couldn't ignore it. Some feared it. Some tried to block it. But the signal could not be stopped. Ziri's message played across hidden channels, personal screens, and even official broadcasts. If you've ever been thrown away, pushed aside, or told you were less come, you are not trash. You are worth saving. Back in the city, Commander Reyes sat in silence. He had lost everything. His team, his mission, his reputation. But deep down, a strange feeling burned inside him, not anger, not shame. Regret. He remembered the little girl in the trash zone. He remembered the kindness in her eyes, something he had never understood until now. And it haunted him. At the refuge, one evening, Kyle sat outside the lab watching the stars. Ziri walked over with 2 mugs of warm tea. "Another long day," he said. "But a good one," she replied. Sitting beside him, he looked at her for a moment. "You've changed a lot." She nodded. "Because you believed in me before I believed in myself." Kyle chuckled. "All I did was give you a shower." Ziri smiled. "That was the first time someone treated me like a person." She paused. "Do you ever wonder why?" "You helped me?" Kyle thought for a second. "I didn't know then. But now I think I saw someone who deserved better. And I just couldn't walk away." Ziri looked up at the stars. "Neither can I ever again." They sat in silence for a while. Then, from the edge of the refuge, a child ran up to them. A small hybrid boy with glowing fingers. "Miss Ziri, come quick." The baby just said her first word. Ziri stood, her face full of joy. She looked at Kyle. "Coming?" He grinned. "Wouldn't miss it." As they walked back toward the refuge, now filled with lights, voices, and laughter, Ziri thought back to the day it all began. The junkyard, the cold, the pain, and Kyle's warm hands lifting her out of the dirt. She had been left in trash. But she was never trash. She was a flame waiting to rise. Now she burned bright for everyone who needed a second chance.